I am delighted to welcome to Reed's Gumtree Bookstore my friend and historian Charles Dollar. Charles, welcome back
Thank
to
you.
Tupelo.
Absolutely.
You and I met when you began researching this
That's
book.
right.
And I was looking back through my notes. 2013.
Yes.
Is that, I think
Yes.
March of 2013 was the first
Yes.
note I got.
Yes.
You said you don't know who in the world I am, but if you'll trust me, I'm doing some research
Yes.
that might end up ultimately including your dad in
Yeah.
a book I'm doing. And here we are, October 13th of 2025, and you've done it.
Yes.
My gosh, you've done it.
Yes.
This is the book, and I'll hold it up. It's called Mississippi Heroes, White Champions of Racial Justice, 1954 to 1974, by Charles Dollar. Charles is historian by life's work, and I'll let you, Charles, just tell a little bit about your own biography. Give the folks that are watching this interview a little bit of your background.
Okay. I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah,
So I
nearby.
have, my parents both grew up in Mississippi, so I have that heritage.
Yeah.
And I went to after graduate, Southside High School, Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Great football team. Won the prep or the city championship numerous times,
Yeah.
and I was on that football team.
Attaboy.
Attended, graduated from Little Baptist College in West Tennessee, Union University.
Mhm. Yeah, that's good.
And after several different moves, I ended up at the University of Kentucky.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you a story about
Good.
prominent Mississippi historian,
All right.
Thomas D. Clark,
All right.
born in Louisville, Mississippi, a graduate of the University of Mississippi, and PhD from what was then called Trinity College
Mhm.
in North Carolina. And when I had applied for admission, and I had not heard anything, so I was living near Frankfort, Kentucky at that point, and so I drove from Frankfort to Lexington and just walked right into the office, and there were 4 or 5 men sitting at a table, and this silver-haired man said to me, "Young man, what can I do for you?" I said, "My name is Charles Dollar, and I've applied for admission." And he said, "Oh yes, I've looked at your transcript. Not such," and he was right. My college transcript was weak, and he said, his name was Tom. I'm Dr. Clark, head of the department. And so he said, "I'm not too sure about this." And I said, "Well, sir," and this is arrogant and bold.
Yeah.
I said, "Well, if I didn't think I could do it, I wouldn't apply."
Yeah. I like
Well,
that.
he balked that, and he
Yeah.
became my advisor.
Wow.
And he wrote a lot about Mississippi and Kentucky. He did a book called The Southern Country Store that was based on Nielsen's store
Oh, really?
in
In
Oxford.
Yeah.
And one of the things he said about my PhD dissertation, which involved computer research stuff, he said, "I never really understood your dissertation." Well, he's not the only one. But I would like to think that I have followed more in his tradition,
Yeah.
because I have written about history since about 2012. But no, I did some other things before I did. But I hope I'm back into the Thomas Clark tradition
Yeah.
of history, and it's Mississippi history.
Yeah. Well, I didn't remember you telling me that your folks grew up in Mississippi.
Yeah,
I knew
yeah.
Memphis, which is just a lot of
Yeah.
people used to say the biggest town in Mississippi was
Kosciuszko was my mother, and do you know where Wren, Mississippi?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
That's
Right down
where
the
my
road.
daddy grew up.
Really? A terrible tornado came through Wren not too many years ago, and it completely flattened a pretty little country church. It was then the Wren United Methodist Church.
Yeah.
The congregation now left the United Methodism, or just Methodism, but it was a lovely little, it had beautiful stained glass windows.
Really?
It was the Wren Methodist Church. I used to drive there sometimes when we had a store in Columbus, and I would want a little time out
Oh,
from
yeah.
my busy, I would just pull in there and just go in and kind of meditate in that little sanctuary. But yes, I know exactly where Ren is. Well, your I guess your thesis in the point of the book is, and you were nice enough to ask me to do a blurb, and what I said about it is, I think, is still just exactly true. And I said, Charles Dollar has done a great service to students interested in learning more about civil rights history in Mississippi. While there is no doubt that it was the black citizens and leaders here who sacrificed the most and faced the most serious
Yeah.
consequences of fighting against the Jim Crow laws, it is nevertheless true that courageous white Mississippians did play an important role in effecting changes for the better in Mississippi society. Nobody really had taken that
Yeah.
that corner of the puzzle
That's right,
on.
yeah.
And so thank you for doing it. And
Well, actually, I just need to interject, the federal government played a major role. The 1964 Civil Rights Act and the 1965 Voting Rights Acts, and the pressure of the federal government, especially what was called Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, that said, if you're getting money from the federal government, you have to sign a letter of compliance, a non-discrimination letter of compliance. So that had
Yes.
a major impact.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
the 59 white Mississippi heroes that I've identified, and I'm sure there were others, but they did not leave any visible trace of anything written, or there may be an occasional reference to them, but nothing that would support writing a full life story as I did for these 59.
well, and I appreciate that, because one of the things, if somebody listened to this and said, well, what about
Yeah,
Aunt so-and-so, she was, or whatever, your point as a historian, you really relied on the facts as you could
yes.
find them,
Yes.
and not just memories.
Yeah.
So I know
There are
that-
some interesting people that I did not include because there wasn't enough written documentation.
Well, I know you are going around the state this week. This is being taped on October 13th, 2025. You're going around the state to different libraries and bookstores
Yes.
with this book and spreading the word about it. And I think that no doubt will be a lot of ripple effect of the sales
so, I hope so.
after people hear about it. But you're in Tupelo,
Yes.
specifically because there are a couple of Tupelo citizens who you thought were worthy of contribution.
Yes. Jack Reed, George McLean.
Yeah. Well, let's start with George McLean, who was one of my dad's mentors and,
Oh, yes.
and heroes, and of course founded then the Tupelo Daily Journal, which is now the Northeast Mississippi.
Well, you know, a little bit of background on George McLean is that he grew up in Winona, not too far from here. His father wanted him to be a lawyer, and so he went to Davidson College, where his father had attended and actually graduated, but he was bored with the classes. He was a terrible student.
Huh.
So his father gave up on him, at least at that part of
Yeah.
the career, and he came back to Oxford, transferred to Oxford, where two important things happened. One, he became involved in the oldest chapter of the Young Men's Christian Association, YMCWA. That was really a very, very strong religious orientation then. It doesn't have that, it's more secular
Right.
now.
Right.
And he was fascinated by the emphasis of the YMCA, Young Men's Christian Association.
YMCA.
He was fascinated by its focus on ethics and translating biblical principles into addressing issues such as poverty, inequality, low spirituality, amongst other things. And so that became part of his core essence, that was a driver, always with compassion for the underdog,
Yeah.
and trying to, in some way, lift them up.
Absolutely.
So that, and he actually, you know, he used the word lift a number of times.
Yeah.
He created
Yeah.
community action agency
Yeah.
called LIFT.
Yeah, one of the first in the country, certainly. I think the first in Mississippi.
Yes,
I remember my dad went to Washington with him,
yes,
to Lyndon Johnson's administration
Yes.
to pitch Tupelo as a location
yes.
for LIFT, and they're still there every day helping people with that.
Oh, yes.
uh,
Matter of fact, I
rent.
checked their website out just
Oh, did
a
you?
couple of days
Yeah.
ago.
You know, they're helping with, you know, just bills, just people right on the
Mhm.
edge, just
Mhm.
trying to hang in there,
Yeah.
trying to make it, trying to keep their children going to foster care, trying to help families move along. Well, that's interesting about the YMCA because I guess with more simplicity, had thought that his training as a Presbyterian minister of theology was I guess 100% of his thinking about
No,
that thing.
no,
That's
you know,
interesting. The
he-
YMCA was a part of
After he
it.
graduated from college, he married Kersey Rosamond,
Right.
a fellow student. They'd been dating. They got married. He was a principal at Byhalia High School 1 year,
Okay.
and he couldn't tolerate interference from the Board of Education.
Yeah.
So he left.
Yeah.
And he apparently had been thinking about something in the area of religion, and he went to Boston University and got an MA in religious studies, and then he taught at a college in Michigan, but eventually wound up at the University of Chicago, where he started working on a PhD in sociology. So he had like your father, he had profound religious beliefs.
Yeah.
They did not, he may have thought about the ministry, but he could not have tolerated close
That lifestyle.
observation. So anyway, he wound up in it, and he was on the faculty at Southwestern College, now
Right.
Southwestern University in Memphis. And this was in the early years of the Depression, and so he was relieved. His contract was not renewed because of financial
Yeah.
issues, and so they retreated. And Kersey retreated to Winona, and the only job he could get was selling newspaper advertising, which he hated. He couldn't tolerate it.
Yeah.
He couldn't tolerate being supervised by other people.
Well, some of his former employees that are listening to this will probably get a kick out of that.
Yes, that's right. And so, anyway, he looked at the newspaper business and said, well, I wonder if I could run a newspaper. So he found the Tupelo Journal
Right.
here that was for sale.
Right.
He borrowed money from his wife. She had an inheritance from her father and from his mother, and bought the newspaper. Overnight, he became editor and publisher of a newspaper without any journalism experience.
He said, he used to say at his talks, you know, I bought a bankrupt newspaper in the poorest county in the poorest state in America. And
Well, it had great potential,
though. But he certainly did a lot with it. Well, I almost felt like George, and I knew him as a boy, just as, you know, because I was interested in the
Yeah.
newspaper, of course, and then through Dad's friendship with him. And George was really the closest thing I have ever known so far, as really as a prophet, a community prophet.
Yes.
A social justice prophet.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have, at least to me, he didn't have a great sense of humor. He did, I think, with his closer friends, he did, and Dad could make him laugh, but somebody asked my father once, he said, well, what do you spend your time doing other than the store? And he says, well, I generally go behind George McLean and try to smooth out rough edges that he is.
Well, yeah, he had
that
some
he is,
roughness. He was convinced of the rightness of his
Yes.
position, and he was going to push it as hard as he could.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
he pushed the Tupelo Chamber of Commerce
Yeah,
into
now the
funding
Community
that
Development
initial
Foundation.
research project that focused on local communities, how they could be improved,
Yeah.
which then gave rise to the rural community development
Yeah,
councils,
yeah.
and eventually the
Community Development
Community
Foundation.
Development
Yeah, yeah.
Foundation.
Yeah, he founded that. He founded of course, with Lift, of course, the newspaper, and then some of the things the Journal did itself, reading aids in all the schools in our area.
Oh yes, a
which-
reading aid
which
program.
the
Yeah.
state picked up because
Yeah,
it
he
was such a
started
good
out in
idea.
Palmetto.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
he
right down the road.
he just I remember he was in the Presbyterian church here.
Oh, yes.
And the folks had come back from a mission trip to somewhere in South America or
Yeah.
Costa Rica somewhere, and he said he told them, he said, that's great. He said, you think everybody else is just going to lay praise on him. He said, that's great. I'm glad about that, but we need that. We need a free medical clinic right here in Tupelo. We don't
Yeah,
need to go to
yeah.
some foreign
Oh, yeah.
country. And through his determination about that, the Good Samaritan Free Clinic
Mhm.
was formed here.
Yes.
Free medical care to the working poor that
Yeah.
don't have insurance.
Mhm.
So there are a lot of ripple effects.
Oh,
to
yes.
George's thing. And of course, you go into the book, we won't go into it now, but people who read the book, he was certainly instrumental in Tupelo's, I guess, single black scar day was the beating of some black inmates.
Oh yeah. Before we get
Yeah,
into that, could we
yeah.
talk a little bit about CREATE?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Christian Research Education Activities Technical Enterprise.
You still got it. That's
Yeah,
what you
still
got.
have it.
How old are you?
Still 91.
That is impressive. I
So-
don't think even us in Tupelo could give the acronym of CREATE.
Probably, well, in any event, he created that when he was, I think, about 69 years old, because he was thinking about, what's going to happen to the newspaper once I die.
Right.
And so he made the newspaper a nonprofit business
Yeah.
that would, and with a separate board of directors, independent of anybody else. And then he established CREATE. And the goal was that the newspaper, dividends from the profits of the newspaper would be channeled into CREATE, and he wanted the money to be used for people-based initiatives. No brick and mortar
Yeah.
memorials.
Yeah.
Now, what sometimes may be forgotten is that I think part of his motivation for some of this was that in the reading aid program, he had pledged $100,000 for 10 years to improve reading skills in Lee County.
Right.
And he wrote that off as a business expense because he was promoting reading.
Right. Which were
That subscribers would,
absolutely, yeah.
well, the IRS didn't buy that.
Yeah.
It didn't buy it at
Yeah,
all.
Yeah.
And so he ended up having to do, or actually Kersey, I think, took care of this after he died. But the CREATE is my way of thinking, well, IRS, you got it one way,
Yeah.
but I got it the better way.
Yeah.
None of this money is going
Yeah.
into taxes. It's
Yeah.
going to be used
Yeah.
locally.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's remarkable. I think people from all over the country that come to Tupelo and look at the good things
Yeah.
that have been accomplished here are just amazed that somebody would give their business to the community.
Yeah, I know.
Basically,
Yeah,
as their
absolutely.
legacy.
But that's part of this compassion
Yeah.
and helping the underdog.
Yeah, yeah, he really did.
Giving them a break. He believed strongly that people, whether black or white, could not succeed if they could not read, if they could not write, if they could not count. Mathematics, reading, writing.
Yeah.
And that was part of what the Reading Aids program, that focused largely on reading,
Yeah.
but it spilled over into these other domains.
Yeah, it's very practical.
Yes.
Very practical. I mean, people think of some of these high-minded idealism, liberal theology,
Yeah.
and this sort of stuff, but very practical
Oh,
in how
yes.
he wanted to
Yes.
apply his emphasis. Well, let's talk.
Well, let's go back to Kenneth Mayfield.
All right.
Or you were talking
No.
about the beating.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was just gonna say, George certainly involved in
Yes, yeah.
Tupelo's
Well,
reconciling
part of the
that.
background is that when this federal judge in Oxford ruled in favor of Kenneth Mayfield's black client who had been beaten by two police,
Right.
Tupelo police detectives. And when that sort of hit the fan, it caught George, it caught your father, it caught some other people off guard, because they had been dealing with, and the black community was angry when the city said, all right, we're going to suspend these guys for 2 weeks without pay. No. The black community said, we want more than that.
Yeah.
And so coming out of all of this was this episode that I'm sure mortified George McClain, because there were demonstrations,
Yeah.
because the city council wasn't doing anything.
Yeah. I was right here. I saw.
You saw it, and the day that the Ku Klux Klan showed up,
Yeah.
and television cameras
Yeah.
covering all of this,
Yeah.
and the city of the progressive city that had won so many awards now looked like any other city in Mississippi.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure he was mortified, but he did resolve some of these issues, but out of his own money,
Yeah.
he made it possible for the two detectives to retire. They never knew at that time
Yeah.
that he had done that.
Yeah.
And McClain formed a biracial committee
Yeah.
to try to work on some other issues. And your father and Felix Black,
Right.
who had a store
Yeah.
somewhere,
Yeah. Right up the street.
right, okay, they were key players in resolving some of the issues
Yeah.
that the city of Tupelo had not honored its commitment
Yeah.
to its compliance pledge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
in essence, an affirmative action program was worked out. But
Yeah.
it also should be noted that Reed's department store, early on, allowed, first of all, it was black, it welcomed black customers. And I've read the oral history interview of your father in which he said that, oh, black, some of the interview asked him, well, what about hats? And because the notion was just with hats and shoes, if you were a black person, if you wanted those, you had to buy them. And then you determined if they really fit.
Yeah.
Well, Reed's department store was quite different, and they did not have white and colored dressing rooms.
Right.
And I don't know about if there were water fountains or not.
No, there was one water fountain.
Yeah, so my point of all of this is that Reed's department store was on the cutting edge of improved racial relations.
Yeah, well, I'm
And-
proud of that. That's true.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
true. Dad was my grandfather who founded the store.
Yeah.
Just remarkably and happily, just didn't have these racist point of view that so many people in his
Yeah.
generation
Yeah.
grew up with in Mississippi.
Yeah.
Just thought that was the way it was.
He lived, or was born in Itawamba,
Yeah,
in Oklahoma County,
Oklahoma County,
and
right.
came to Tupelo about 2004, I think.
Yeah.
But
1904.
1904,
Yeah.
not 2004, thank you.
Yeah.
But northeastern Mississippi was quite different from the Delta.
Yeah.
Didn't have as many blacks. And as a matter of fact, the black population in Lee County dropped sharply in the 1940s as part of this massive black migration
Yeah.
to the north.
Yeah.
And so there was even a lower population. And the Ku Klux Klan never had any
No, not
presence
really.
here. And there were a couple of people who were related to the Citizens Council.
Yeah.
One guy named Dacus who
Yeah.
ran a pharmaceutical company.
Yeah.
Really went after your dad.
Yeah, he did. He did.
After he gave a speech at Ole Miss
Yeah.
when he was president of the Mississippi Economic Council.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a little of that, and I remember going into another fellow who was the only other known KKK member in Tupelo, had a little grocery, and I was going to get some milk at that grocery one day, and he said, I saw a picture of my dad giving out an award, a trophy at Carver High
Yeah.
School, which was still the all-black high school, and this guy had written on the picture, "Do not buy clothes from this man. He is an end lover."
Yeah,
And I just
walked out.
no, I've just picked up the toothpaste, just put it in my pocket, and walked out. But it was Dad had he one of the things that surprised me. You say you're 91. He would have been. Well, I guess he would have been 101 now,
Yes.
which y'all would have been if you lived here, more or less contemporaries, 10 years different. But a lot of this work that he was doing when he was president of the Mississippi Economic Council and really went around the state
Yeah.
making this speech, we've got to keep the public schools open, we've got to
Mhm.
honor the Supreme Court's
Yeah.
we've got to do it the right way. He was 38 and 39 years old.
38 years old,
Yeah.
actually, yeah.
That seems, to me, as I get older, and I'm 74, that seems remarkably young. I
Yes.
think when my son is now, 43 years old, and I think, gosh, Dad was, he was willing to step out.
Yes.
It really took.
But that was not too,
boldness.
that was not too unusual, because you may recall, he gave a speech at Russ College in 1956, 2 years after Brown versus Board of Education,
Yeah.
in which he said he believed in equality, he believed in equal laws, and he did not believe that blacks were inherently inferior. And he went on to talk a little bit more about that. And some of that had an impact, not only on the students, but on other whites, I'm sure, who heard about this. But Jack Reed Sr. also was a devout Methodist, like George McLean was a devout Presbyterian. And he spent a lot of time promoting an inclusive United Methodist Church.
Yeah.
He spent 4 years on a commission that traveled around the country talking to local congregations or conferences
Yeah.
about inclusiveness. And he played a big role in helping bridge the gap here in Mississippi when the central jurisdiction, which was the traditional place
Right.
for black churches,
Yeah.
and there was a black conference in Mississippi. They were all merged together, and he played a
Yeah.
major role in that.
Yeah, he did.
He
was
had big tracks. He left big tracks behind him.
Well, he was devoted to that. He really did. He ended up being the spokesperson for merging those
Yeah.
conferences. And I remember reading the Methodist Advocate was
Oh, yeah.
the church's newspaper, and I
Mhm.
remember reading kind of point counterpoint, his why we should do it, and then the other fellows, why we shouldn't do
Mhm.
it, and so I remember that very well. He made some good friends when he was on that national commission on race and religion with the Methodist Church. One of them ended up being the gentleman, the pastor in Atlanta that gave the prayer at President Obama's first
Oh, really?
inauguration.
Yeah, okay.
And so that he enjoyed that opportunity to be with some other national
Mhm.
folks. Joe Lowry was his name.
Joe Lowry.
Joe Lowry, Lowry. And he invited Joe Lowry to come speak at our church one Sunday, and he drove over from Atlanta. Of course, this was in the 60s in Mississippi, when all these terrible things
Oh,
were still
yeah.
going on. I mean, Medgar Evers, Ole Miss, the Klan
Yeah.
around Meridian, and the civil rights workers there. And Reverend Lowry agreed to come, but on our church marquee, it would have the sermon for the morning service,
Mhm.
and then it would have the sermon title for the night service.
Mhm.
We were still having, every Sunday night service. And this is absolute truth. And he commented on, we all looked at it after, but on the 11 o'clock service, it said, welcome Reverend Joseph Lowry.
Mhm.
You know, the night service, the service was the trial of Joseph. It's terribly,
Oh, yes.
terribly inconvenient.
Yes.
Old Testament story there. So anyway, he said I almost turned around and went back. I didn't realize I was going to be
Yes.
arrested and tried. But well, anyway, a little bit more. Some of your thoughts. Again, like I say, I'm a little chagrined maybe of asking you to talk about that. But he certainly, I think he earned it in your story. A little. Any other thoughts on his contributions?
Your father,
My father, yeah.
Well, the conclusion to his life story, I try to summarize the things he did for the community. Lift, reading aids program, create,
That's
and just
George
and
McClain.
and one of the interesting things is that, and this is George McLean.
Right.
Let me back off
Right.
what I was going to say, but from what I was able to determine from reading a lot of the papers, your father's papers at the University of Mississippi's School of the Archives and
Right.
Special Collections, is that he impressed people with his integrity, his religious commitments, and his willingness to talk and listen to people. And he had a profound belief, I think, in future prospects, that things can and will get better.
Yeah.
We just have to apply the right principles.
Yeah, he was an optimist, and he had a great sense of humor, which helped him in his speeches.
Oh, yes.
He was a wonderful public speaker, and I think he peppered all of his speeches with jokes and
Mhm.
asides, which kept people interested in what he was.
Mhm.
So when you get to the serious things, they were still listening.
Yes, he was asked to, by the bishop of the Mississippi Methodist Conference, to speak at, with the church here,
Yeah.
Methodist Church, I believe it was here, a witness. And, no, I'm sorry, I think it was in Jackson.
Maybe
Any case,
Yeah.
he began his speech with saying, things are quite different when I was growing up. The things we were told they were not good. Shouldn't play cards. Shouldn't dance.
Yeah.
Obviously shouldn't drink.
Yeah.
But he said, in today's world, being a conscientious Christian is a great deal more demanding, especially in the arena of race relations, and he proceeded
Yeah.
to discuss that. So I thought that was an interesting way of comparing his own growing up
Yeah.
and his own maturity
Yeah. Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah, and the seriousness of the things he did. Well, Charles, thank you for this interview, for the people not going to be able to come today.
Okay.
And really, really appreciate all, like I said, Duncan Gray, Lloyd Gray, who's
yes.
a good friend of mine, and his family. Duncan Gray is in here.
Oh, yes, yes,
Owen,
sir.
Owen Cooper. I was just looking through the table of contents that other people know would appreciate. Chester Malthus was a Baptist
yes.
minister down in Meridian.
No,
Jim
it was
Silver,
Belzoni.
Belzoni.
Yes.
Jim Silver at Ole Miss.
Oh, yes.
Was Heidi Carter, second and third. Bill Miner.
Oh, yes.
Great friend. Right? Claude Ramsey with the Frank Smith, William Winter.
Yes,
you
but-
mentioned too. So.
Yes, but there's some people in that are not known.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Marge Baroni in Natchez, Mississippi.
Yeah.
Kate Foote in Greenwood. Christine Campbell, who was a white professor at Tougaloo College and at Russ College. A Methodist who came from California and ended up spending about 25 years here and wrote a great book called Chronicles of Mississippi. And it's about, she wrote a lot of letters to friends, fabulous, great reading about some of the
Yeah.
issues, and she believed, she stuck to her beliefs.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't read the whole book yet, but I look forward to read
Yeah.
all of them. And every one of these people was admirable in
Oh, yes.
his or her own way, and,
Mhm.
and their motives were admirable, and the fact that they did something.
Yes, yeah.
One of the, I guess, ended with this comment, a little book, a collection of sermons and philosophical ideas and things that I'd collected over 50 years. One of them that I really appreciate was says, the smallest act of kindness is better than the greatest intention. And everybody in here acted.
yes,
you know,
that's
what
right.
They didn't just think, well, somebody should do something
Yeah.
about it. All these people did pitch in and do something
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Well, Charles, thank you.
Thank you
Look
much.
forward to
Oh,
having
by
you
the way,
read
I
us.
want to let people know that I am grateful to you for this venue, but I'm grateful for your sharing so much information. And when you were in Atlanta,
Yeah,
my wife then and I came down and talked with you and
Yeah.
your son,
yeah.
and you gave me more information. It's very important.
Glad-
Thank you so
glad-
much.
Glad to help you. Glad
This
to have
book
you.
is the product of lots of people like you.
Absolutely. Well, Mississippi Heroes, White Champions of Racial Justice, 1954, 1974. We've got it here at Reed's Bookstore, Gulfstreet Bookstore, and we'll have some signed copies by Charles Dollar. Thank you.